Council is now in session. Will Clerk please take the roll?
Here.
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 Yes, here.
Present.
All right, if I can get you to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. If there are no objections, the agenda will stand approved as written. The next item on the agenda is a presentation, and we're going to introduce Shelby Krogh, a volunteer events supervisor, and Leslie Harris, our community relations manager, is going to give us the information.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tonight, I wanted to introduce Shelby Krogh to you all. She joined us. Actually, today is our 2-month anniversary. Time is just flying by.
What's taking you so long?
We've been busy. So she is helping out with our volunteer program, helped out with getting our adult, with North Shore School District, we have adult transition program here at the city. She's been helping get them moved in and settled toward the end of their program, which ended a couple weeks ago, and then getting ready for the next students to come in the fall. And then also, Shelby just helped interview 3 high school students that are going to come and join us as interns for the next school year as well. They're actually starting already, helping out with events, marketing, volunteer management, and then also our Target Zero program. So she'll be working closely with them as well as the whole team as well. And then also the Adopt a Street and Adopt a Park program. She's been busy helping get those underway as well, and the businesses getting out into the community to do their cleanups. And then also with events, which she's going to cover today. I don't want to steal her thunder on all the wonderful things we have going on in the community, starting this week. And also, she's helping with the town square programming and policy development and things along those lines. So she's just jumped right in. She's been a wonderful asset already, and she's making a great contribution to the team. She's going to be a wonderful fit and person for the position. So I'm really happy to have Shelby on board with us. So I'm going to turn it over to her to kind of go through our summer planning.
Great. Then is this on?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me tonight. So like Leslie said, I've been with the City of Kenmore for 2 months now. As of today, prior to this, I was working at the Seattle Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce doing events and programming for small business development in the Puget Sound community. And then before that, was in school and have been a native of the Puget Sound my whole life, and I, can't bring myself to leave, and I'm really excited to be here in Kenmore and to now be living here. So thank you for having me. So I'm going to give you a quick update on some of the events that we have coming up this summer. We've got a packed program that starts this Wednesday with our new Movies at the Square program. So we're really excited about this. It's going to be our first opportunity to really activate the new town square and hangar building. So these start Wednesday, June 28th, and will occur every other Wednesday until August 30th. So we'll go through the school summer break. At 7:30, we'll have food trucks and activities depending on what movie we're showing that night. And then at dusk, we'll show the movies on a large inflatable screen over in the town square. So this summer, we'll feature The Secret Life of Pets, Moana, the Lego Batman movie, La La Land, Finding Dory, and Beauty and the Beast.
I'm really excited. I'm going to just mention on the Beauty and the Beast, the last one. I actually went to the high school a couple months ago and asked the leadership class for feedback on movies that they would like to see, and Beauty and the Beast was top on that list. So we're actually probably one of the few cities that are going to be showing that, just because we weren't sure if it was going to be released or not. And thankfully, they just announced that it has been released. So we're really excited to be able to show these.
The other one we were really surprised was La La Land, that we're
Yeah.
going to show La La Land. So.
Yeah, we have a really great lineup, so we're really excited.
Yeah, we've gotten great feedback. We've been at the Kenmore Community Market the last couple of weeks, and I've had a lot of excited kids and a lot of excited adults who are ready to see the space. So the next event we have on our docket, which is next Tuesday, is our July 4th fireworks show down at Log Boom Park. So as usual at 7:30, we'll have food, music, and activities. We have the Landing Church that'll be helping with some coloring and crafts. And then at 10 p.m., we'll have the fireworks show. And then 2 days later, we'll start our summer concert series, so next Thursday. These will run every Thursday until August 10th at St. Edward State Park. They'll be from 6 to 8. We'll have rotating food trucks at each event this summer, as well as some city partner booths, as well as a Target Zero booth. This summer will feature everything from bluegrass and Americana to Celtic, Hawaiian, and we're really excited about our final gig, which is Grace Love. She's soul and R&B. She's a Seattle native, and we're really excited to have her this year. And then we have Kenmore Play Day. It'll be Saturday, August 12th at Rhododendron Park from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So we'll have free activities, performances, snacks. We'll have a couple of food trucks, and right now we're in the process of confirming our community partners that'll be there and on site, and we're rolling with that. We're really excited. We've had a lot of inquiries, so it should be a great event. And then I am really privileged to announce that our Why I Love Kenmore Summer Party, we've selected a new date, which will be Saturday, August 26th over at the Kenmore Town Square and in Kenmore Village. It'll be from 5 to 9 p.m., and then there'll be a post-celebration activity, which we're figuring out at the moment. Can I announce what we're talking about?
Sure.
So we're looking at a couple of different options. One will be another movie in the square. We're also looking at perhaps a silent disco, which could be a really fun way to get the teens in our community out and involved with the city. But we're looking at quite a few options, and we're really excited about what's out there. We want to have the entire community involved in this celebration because it's not only a celebration of Kenmore, but really all of the hard work and blood, sweat, and tears before even my time that have gone into making this downtown Kenmore happen. So we're really excited about that. That'll include a street fair, family-friendly activities, live music, food vendors, and a beer garden. So stay tuned for details.
What was that first option?
Street fair.
No.
The silent disco.
Oh, I thought that was the second.
Another movie program in the square on an inflatable screen, kind of like what we're doing with the movies at the square.
What?
August 26th. It's a Saturday.
What is a silent disco?
It was just before the silent disco. You said there was two options that you're looking at, and I didn't catch the
The
first one.
movies or silent disco?
What was that?
Silent disco.
No, and the first?
Movies.
Movies, gotcha, okay.
Okay. Silent disco is where you have a DJ and then you have headphones that people are wearing, and it's kind of like a silent party. It's kind of like the new hip and cool thing to do. You're seeing it a lot now in EMP.
Bumper Shoot, a lot of the arts and cultural groups in Seattle have been working on implementing them. It's a great way to get people to be active, and it's a really fun way to celebrate music. So we're looking into what our options are right now, but we're pretty excited about that opportunity.
It'll be really cool.
So with that is just the summer. We have plenty more ahead, but I'll stop there and spare you. But I look forward to hopefully seeing you all at some of our events this summer, and really thank you again for having me tonight.
A Seattle Chamber event, and I've heard all about you from a number of different sources. And then I'm still waiting for your one of your specialties.
Oh yes, flash
mob.
mobs.
Yes.
So hopefully we'll
We're
incorporate
looking forward
one.
to many things.
Your Honor, if I could interject something. So the event on the 26th will also double as the ribbon cutting event for the town square and the hangar building and the kind of the grand opening there. And so we'll want to invite a lot of people, including our legislative delegation who helped fund that project. Congresswoman Susan Delbene, if she's in town, hopefully she'll be able to come. I know they have an August recess, so hopefully she'll be in town for that, among many other people.
Get that request in early because she's going to be at an event with me on the 1st of August. So
Okay.
she should be in town. But
Also, on July 8th, there's an event at the town square. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sorry for not including that. So on July 8th, we're really excited. This will be our first partnership over at the Hangar Building. It's going to be called Fighting Hunger at the Hangar. It's in partnership with Student Music Initiatives, which is a local nonprofit that is completely run by high school students who perform music or recruit bands to perform music to raise money for local charities. So this specific event will be raising money for the YMCA Summer Lunch Program, and their goal is to raise $1,000 for this year's Summer Lunch Program. I believe that they said it will feed 100 more kids throughout the summer with that donation. So it will be over in the town square. They'll have 4 different bands playing between 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock. And in between each band, there'll be an intermission. We'll hear from the YMCA folks who are running the summer lunch program. We'll have somebody here from City Hall talking, and they're going to have some activities. It sounds like maybe a hula hoop competition from the YMCA to keep kids active and entertained. They'll have food trucks. So it's a really exciting opportunity. We're really pleased to be a part of it and be partnering with Student Music Initiatives on it. And they just did a sound check last week. They sound great. So we're really excited to have
What's
them.
neat about it, it is truly led by high school students, including graduating seniors. And it's not the adults running the show with the kids in support. It's the reverse. And it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's a great group.
Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you.
thank you, Mrs. Harris.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Krogh, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is citizen comments. This is an opportunity to express your views on issues that are important to you and to the community. We ask that you please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Phyllis Finley. I'm set my timer. So I have 10 items in 180 seconds.
If you could
10
just say
seconds
your
per
name.
item.
your
Phyllis Finley, 5962 Northeast Arrowhead Drive, Kenmore. So I'm going to just start going, and wherever I leave off, I'll see you again in 2 weeks, same time, same place, I guess. But the first thing I wanted to do is to correct the record from something that was said 2 weeks ago, and you have a handout, just a copy of an email of mine. 2 weeks ago at a council meeting, someone stated during public comment that North Lake Little League could not use Big Fin Hill Park because it's in Kirkland. That puzzled me a little bit, so I called Matthew Perkins at King County Parks, and he referred me to the regional scheduler. I sent her an email, and you have in front of you my email to her and the reply. So I would like that noted officially in the record that North Lake Little League is eligible to use Big Fin Hill Park. Might be hard to get in there. It might be hard to get scheduled, but the fact that they are eligible, I think, is noteworthy. The second thing, just backtracking 2 weeks, Mr. Carlinzi, you made the comment that St. Edward State Park has challenges and so do schools. A lot of people have said, why don't we use the ballparks at schools? And I absolutely agree. I wouldn't, if I were a neighbor, that would be a challenge. And I think it's all of our responsibility to find those schools where it's less challenging. I'm thinking specifically of Arrowhead, which is practically in the park. When I run the Arrowhead Trail every day, the kids are right there on my right or on my left, depending on which way I'm going. The back of that ball field backs up to the park, as you know, and there are really no residences immediately surrounding the park. McDonald Highlands is a bit away, and it's right on busy Juanita Drive anyway. So when we're thinking that schools don't work because they have challenges, every place has a challenge, doesn't it? Okay, so in addition, I want children to be active. I want children to be active everywhere and in a variety of ways, structured and unstructured. I want them to be active at St. Edward State Park in a variety of ways, structured and unstructured. I want the natural turf and field at St. Edward to be truly rehabilitated. The proposal by City of Kenmore is not really a rehabilitation synonym, restore a place to good condition, return something to an environment, such as an environmental feature, to its former condition, naturalize, restore. That's not really what the proposal is about. The proposal really is about developing. I'd like the City of Kenmore to be accurate everywhere and every time it describes what's happening. I would want the City of Kenmore to inform the public of its intention in a way that's understandable by the general population. If you've ever noticed people at the park or anywhere walking up to a big white notice of proposed land use, pretty much people go, and walk away, right? We've all seen it. You can't really read them. You don't really know what's happening. And in the same way that the City of Kenmore was really explicit and did a lot of outreach on the walkways and waterways, let's be really forthcoming about really what's happening at St. Edward.
We're at 3 minutes,
Okay.
Mayor.
Okay, I've just, very quick, thank you, I'll stop this. I'd love the taxpayers, I want the taxpayers of Kenmore to become aware that $250,000 has already been spent to make the proposal work, and it truly is, as another speaker said 2 weeks ago, a bit like the Cinderella shoe on the ugly stepsister. Let's get the shoe to match. I want the taxpayers of Kenmore to become aware that this proposal could cost up to $5 million, maybe more. I want the taxpayers of Kenmore to know exactly how many lineal feet of sidewalk or other amenity that the majority of Kenmore citizens could enjoy, that amount of money could buy. I want to know at what point the City Council or any municipality's council finds it appropriate to tell or to ask the public about such a huge expenditure. Or does typically a municipality, the council of such a municipality, feel that it's within their power to spend tax dollars in whatever way they see fit? Is there a tipping point? And if so, what is that dollar amount? Thank you.
Thank you very much,
You're
Ms.
welcome.
Finley.
Pat O'Brien.
Pat O'Brien, 6330 Northeast 181st Street. I'd request that the timer be put back up there so we could see how we're doing or not
We're in
doing.
the process of getting them
All right.
prepared.
Terrific. Let me start mine. There we go. All right. I have a couple things that I observed. Last night I had to call Jerry Paulette at 10:30 at night on his private line because the folks at Kenmore Air were removing the asphalt in front of the new hangar, and that is in violation of the agreement they had with the parties that were suing over testing the land in the development of that hangar. And it started about 5:30 on a Sunday. It was going strong at 10:30. I've got pictures. I submitted them to Rob today. He's on top of that. But here was an activity clearly agreed to, or there was it was said that there would be testing on any turf that came, or any land that came out of there. And here we have a clear violation of that agreement. It was very difficult to get a hold of any staff or the city police, but a policeman did go down and he asked if they had a variance for noise or hours of operation. They said they did not. They said they were told that they could operate all night long if they wanted to. And so that stopped about 10:30 last night. So that's an after-hours response number would be great because citizens observe things, and if it happens on a weekend or after hours, no response is taken, and their plan was to do all the stuff they had to do in violation of that agreement that the city signed, Jerry Paulette signed, and all the parties signed, and that was not going to happen. Then also I went to the Planning Commission and I heard testimony from the city, and it had no teeth to it. The Lori was speaking about various complaints that had come in regarding businesses on Juanita Drive, and she said that these complaints had been lodged, but nobody on the board asked for any proof. I mean, who who were the complainants, what's their address, when did they happen. So taking a violation against a property owner and a business is very important. Then you understand that if there is a complaint, it's got to be in writing. And number two, you have to prove that the person wasn't grandfathered in with their use. And as far as the barbecue place up across from Arrowhead, he's got his business on very contaminated land that was formerly a gas station. And he's running a wholesale business and the barbecue business, but it cost $500,000 to remediate that. And I want the city to think, what would you have there instead that wouldn't create more traffic and be difficult for kids to cross the street? I mean, he's got a huge setback. There are some advantages to his wholesale business there. And I think that the city, it's their job to prove that he wasn't doing that before incorporation, and I believe he was, and then he later augmented it with the barbecue business. But that's true for anybody operating a business. We promised incorporation that previous or current uses were grandfathered in, and it's up to the city code enforcement person to prove that they weren't, not the other way around.
We're at 3 minutes.
Oh, darn it. I had so much more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien.
Thanks.
Steve Caldwell.
Thank you for letting me present this evening. Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council, City Manager, and the best attorney any city could ever have. I'm here this evening to address the Little League baseball field that's coming up for $4.8 million. I have a lot of concerns about it. I started playing baseball at 8 years old. I made the majors as a Little Leaguer. And the advantage it gave me was I was able to get a college scholarship. But it wasn't because I was playing on a $4 million field. It was because I had parents involved, community involved, and the field didn't matter. I looked up the partner in this would be North Shore Little League, and they, on their website, their address is a post office box. There are no contact numbers. There's no, in fact, if you want to get a scholarship through the website, you click on the league president and it doesn't work. I happened to get North Shore Little League in New York on a Saturday morning and someone answered the phone. So you got to be careful where you're doing. Little League doesn't always have the best reputation. A lot of parents get overcaught in the whole thing, and coaches really want to win, and that's not what it's all about. Little League is already using Kokanee Elementary, Maywood Elementary, West Hill Elementary, Woodmore Elementary, Crystal Springs, and we've already invested $800,000 to date at Bastyr. My proposal is, like was presented before, use Arrowhead Elementary. It has a perfect ball field. I marked it off the other day. The dimensions are perfect. It has a dugout. It has a backstop. It even has a honey bucket there. It has playground for all the other kids who aren't playing baseball. It even has parking that you can park at with no fee, no $10 fee. And it even has Rocky's Corner, which is a Kenmore business that you can go to afterwards and get a treat. My proposal would be to have that played at Arrowhead, and I'm going to finance all this. What we're going to do is I adopted Arrowhead Drive, and I've been doing it for about the last 10 years. And so I would adopt the baseball field with the PTA and the community of Arrowhead, and we'd maintain the field. We also would be able to change the fees from $200 to sign up for baseball to $137. We would give 20 scholarships to people who couldn't afford to play Little League. We would reduce the fatality goal of, your goal is in 2025 is to have no fatalities. I would reduce that to 2021. And you say, how are you going to do that? Well, I'm going to do that by enforcing the rules on the Burt Gilman Trail. I was just down there last Saturday, and within 5 minutes, there were 25 bicycle violations and 7 car violations on 61st. They also run the stop sign at 65th. And all you need to do is write 52 tickets a month, and you'll raise $65,000 a year to finance any ball field you want in this city. I think it's something you really have to look at. And the thing that really bothers me is the bikers think they have no concern for everyone, for anyone. In fact, I will even stop and say, you know, you just ran a red light or this stop sign here, and they have this funny wave that they wave at you with one finger. And I really think that our community cannot afford any kind of an investment like that. It's already tax money that we've already gotten, or you're going to get new tax money. And I think you really need to look at the whole picture. One time
3 minutes, Mayor.
Thank you. My father-in-law asked me, did you ever make the wrong decision as an elected official when you take the responsibility of the community as your vote? And I said, not when you have all the information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Number 4.
John Hendrickson.
Thank you, John Hendrickson, Kenmore, Washington. Good evening, council members. I've spoke to you a couple of times about my concern about the corporate culture on the council and how with 7 council members you're supposed to keep yourselves reined in, and you seem to have trouble doing that, and there's a pattern of attacking, discrediting, and marginalizing community members that either question or oppose the council's policy making. Another example I'd like to review tonight is there's an email going around from Councilmember Smith dated June 18th. And in that, he's saying that there's some members of the community who aren't agreeing with his ball field plan, who just don't value getting kids outside to play, vehemently oppose any plan, will extensively discredit me and other city proposals. Councilmember Smith fully understands it goes with the territory of wanting to help kids in the community to have recreation and of being a council member. So his understanding is apparently there's just bad people behaving badly, and it's just their problem. In the end, he says he hopes one day practical common sense will prevail, and he thanks this one person for having a reasonable voice. Now, I think if you step back and you look at the facts and circumstances, accusing citizens who don't support a $4.8 million 20-year ball field lease of not valuing kids' recreation, of vehemently opposing any plan, or of attacking Brent Smith personally, or of lacking practical common sense or not having a reasonable voice is really beyond irrational. It's unhealthy and counterproductive to the public interest. Everyone I know supports a grass field up at St. Ed's that would both improve recreation and conservation. It's a designated biodiversity corridor by the state, which is contiguous with not just St. Ed's, but Big Fin Hill Park and Denny Park. It should be protected, not putting lights up there that degrade that environment. Everyone I know supports the children of this community, both in terms of recreation and in terms of ethical government conduct that is supportive, deliberative, accountable, and trustworthy. We do not support passing illegal legislation like the Paul Ordinance of 2016 that you passed and was overturned by the Growth Management Hearings Board. And do not support illegal coercion tactics like the September 30, 2015 email from Brent Smith and Doug Levy proposing the City Council withhold permitting from state parks hotel development for the express purpose of obtaining city control of the ball fields there. We do not support unethical lobbying practices such as asking Little League parents to use their grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends to email state parks and the Kenmore City Council and express attempt to mislead authorities about local public support. We do not support the use of 1,000 petition signatures that is 10 years old. See Brent Smith's January 18, 2016 email to state parks. We do not support the Council's effort to pursue development of the ball fields at St. Ed's for months without public disclosure. See Brent Smith's email of January 11, 2016, where he tells the supporters regarding the city's pursuing control of St. Ed's field, the issue has only recently been public, but you were working on it for months. But he says, I am pleased that we have gotten off to a good start. I do expect opposition to build, as you know. It is on our council agenda for this evening. I hope to have some, quote, field supporters in attendance. So he's working the system.
We're at 3 minutes, Mayor.
In conclusion, everyone I know believes that the adversarial conduct by public officials in an effort to divert public resources is a violation of public trust and should not be tolerated by the City Council. Try to rein yourselves in.
Thank you, Mr. Hendrickson. Anybody else wishing to come forward? Anybody else? Mayor Caldwell.
Yes, Your Honor.
89 tickets in a 4-hour period one day on the Burt Gilman Trail. One afternoon.
They violated it every day,
Oh, every day, yes.
every hour of every day.
Thank you all for your comments. There are issues, obviously, we're still working on, and we do appreciate your comments and hearing from you, because we do take things into consideration. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? And I'll second. Any further discussion? Okay, the motion before us is to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda stands approved unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the hangar building facility use policies. Mr. Carlinzy.
Thank you, Your Honor, and members of the City Council. Just 1 week ago, you gave me some really helpful feedback about the hangar facility use policy. And just to recap, this is a brand-new community building that is right, you can see it right there across the street. And it's going to be part of the town square. The town square is open and ready for, available for use. On that hot Sunday afternoon, just yesterday, I saw a bunch of people having fun in the water fountain, including one guy who decided to sunbathe on that big rock right out in the middle. Oh. So that was fun to see all the kids playing and enjoying that water fountain. Diva Espresso is doing their tenant improvements right now in, and if you look on the screen, this is, you can see where north is. So this is 68th Avenue, this is 181st down here. Diva Espresso is working on their tenant improvements, and they expect to be done by the end of July. And we expect to have the hangar building open for public use in the first half of August, with the grand opening at the end of August on August 26th, as we talked about earlier. I hope this diagram is helpful to you. It would have been helpful a week ago, so I apologize for not having this as part of last week's discussion. You can see the Otter room, or what we're proposing to call the Otter room, and then you can see the Beaver room here, and then the living room area here. There's the two-sided fireplace. If you can follow my little mouse cursor, we'll have kind of comfortable furniture on either side of the two-sided fireplace. Plus, we'll have tables and chairs spread out here in this outer area. In the back storage room, we'll have additional stackable chairs and tables to bring out if events require them. So that's the diagram, and I'm happy to flip back to that any time. But what I did is, soon after your feedback, I did my best to incorporate your feedback into the document. So here's the actual policy itself. And just running through it really quickly, you can see the revisions shown. And I'm not going to go through each one, but I'm just going to kind of slowly scroll through. You asked that instead of listing all the ways people can discriminate, that we just incorporate what we used in the city's welcoming city policy. So I just copied that in there, except for the part where will abide by local, state, and federal laws. That's something I'm proposing to add. But starting at the City of Kenmore believes in the dignity, that comes straight out of your welcoming city resolution. So I hope I'm implementing what you intended. Okay. On the Otter event, this was really helpful feedback. Councilmember Sperry mentioned that we want to kind of achieve something similar to third place books, which has been my intention all along. And so I was kind of straying from that intent when I was talking about limiting public entry into the Otter. And instead, people who use that Otter space for whether it's a violin recital or a book club or whatever, that they shall acknowledge that the public may attend the event and freely enter and exit through all the doors of the building. So, and I think most, say, violin teachers or ballet teachers would love for the public to come and watch their kids perform. But I think that needs to be made clear, just like it is at Third Place Books. If there's going to be a performance on stage, the general public gets to be a part of it and gets to watch it. So, does that meet your intent?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. Got rid of the word rentals, changed it to reservations.
So on the rental question,
Yeah.
the use is free
Yes.
for anybody?
Yep.
Kirkland residents, Redmond residents, they can book the room and use the room for free.
You all talked about that a week ago, and Your Honor, you weren't. You were out of town. But yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Counsel, but you decided to just go with not making that distinction now. If it becomes a problem, or if Kenmore residents are having a hard time reserving the space, then we can come back and look at that.
That's what I'd be concerned with, is Kenmore residents would not have the opportunities. Oh, I'm sorry.
I could comment on that.
Councilmember Curtis, yes.
I think what we thought about, at least initially, activating the place is the priority. If it gets so crazy busy that we're having to make decisions, then we can change the policy and say Kenmore residents will have the priority.
Okay. Yeah, Councilmember Smith.
On the occupancy between the living room and the Otter, and since they're not separated except by the fireplace, is that a fire, the fire marshal that created that, or is that going to be an aggregate that is allowed for any event there?
Are you talking about, so I've got it up, are you talking about this dotted line?
Yeah, and I see that there, and then it's got 170 to the up to the north of that, and then 57 below it.
These lines are created by us and staff just to kind of delineate where the general spaces are. We're going to play this by ear. Will we have some sort of marking on the floor or some sort of stanchion or something? We're not quite sure yet. We're going to see how the space works. These occupancies, they are based on the square footage. Now, this is the kind of the legal fire load occupancy. Will we really want 170 people in there? We don't think so. Right now, Leslie Harris and her team are going to be kind of setting up chairs and seeing what's a comfortable fit in there, and then we'll adjust the actual policy accordingly.
Okay. The bigger question for me is 170 plus 57.
Well, that's
plus 14.
That's kind of my
Plus
question.
42 at Diva, yeah. Yeah, these numbers are high and just based on the legal max, but practically speaking, these numbers are likely to be less, and we'll get those figured out once we get closer to opening the space and actually functionally putting furniture in there.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Sprague.
We did talk about this last week about the charging a fee for non-residents versus Kenmore residents. And I know one of the issues was if that was to happen, how difficult it would be to implement and whether it would, the difficulty of implementation would offset any potential. Have you thought any more about that, or I guess probably not, since we didn't really
not since last week, but yeah, we would want to consider that. Part of what makes this so easy is money is not exchanging hands. So if we get into taking money, which we can do, that'll be something we'll want to weigh on whether or not to make that distinction.
Well, I know that you had your example about the swimming pool and how that you felt like you were, kicked out.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be that way. I think that just somehow showing that, the taxpayers of Kenmore basically paid for this. I guess you could argue that some of it was state money, which, does widen the net a little bit. But anyway, I think it's something to kind of keep in the back of the mind. So my second question is, so we didn't do anything in terms of, have you thought any more about, how many reservations a person or an organization can make and kind of the timing? Because I do still have the concern about somebody signing up for every day or, that kind of thing.
Yeah. We have, I'm trying to find it here. We do have that policy about monopolization, but what we'll do is we'll get into it and see how it's working and see if we encounter problems like that, and then administratively we can tweak things and make those kind of calls as we're implementing the policy and managing the building.
Mm-hmm.
If we see a pattern of one person constantly monopolizing the space, which the policy says they're not supposed to do, then we can make changes based on what we're seeing.
So, I know I'm kind of monopolizing, aren't I? Well, I used to teach school, and one of the things I learned was it's easier to start out strict and loosen up than it is to tighten up the rules. And so that may be a consideration in terms of, setting some tighter parameters, because you can always relax those. So it may avoid some situations.
Yeah, it's a balance because we're trying to, like it says right here, we're trying to maximize public use of the facility. We don't want space to go unused because we're afraid that somebody might monopolize the space. It says here that except for city-sponsored events, individuals or groups may not monopolize any space within the hangar, with or without reservations. I'd like to have that language be that high level so that administratively we can make adjustments as we're going along.
So, on the alcohol part, one of the things I think that we had talked about initially was wine in the evenings. And I see you have alcohol in there at, what's it say, approved city sanction events and except as provided for in the tenant's lease agreement. So I'm confused on the city sanctioned events.
And so, for example, we have a beer garden at the Why I Love Kenmore event, and that's a city-sanctioned event where alcohol is allowed. Could something like that happen in the hangar? Maybe. We don't have anything planned, but we wanted to have the policy allow for something like that if we wanted to have an event like that.
Okay, but then it's also in the lease agreement that they will serve, right?
Yep.
In the wine in the evenings.
Mm-hmm. And one thing we need to get a better understanding of between now and the opening date is how their liquor license is going to work in relation to the rest of the space. And so we'll be getting a good handle on that before opening date.
Will it just be wine or wine and beer?
Beer and wine, I'm told.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, and I think last week I asked whether people could bring their own food and drink, and the answer was yes. They didn't have to buy it from the vendor. Is that really true for the alcohol as well?
That would not be true in this case. Somebody could not bring their own alcoholic beverage into the hangar building unless, no, I don't think they could actually. So.
But they can't bring food?
Yep.
Get a pizza party.
Sure. There's nothing in the lease that gives the tenant a monopoly on providing food for the space.
Anything else? Sorry to backtrack a little bit, but when you miss, you miss. Councilmember Sperry.
One thing that when I was talking to somebody during the week, they were wondering about Diva and whether they would have enough turnover and enough open seating for their customers so that, they could keep selling And I was just wondering if there's what the communication's been with DEVA, or will they have like separate rules for their little space, or?
Will they have separate rules?
Right, so that little corner where you were saying where it says DEVA and 42 spaces?
Yeah, right here.
I'm assuming that means there's seating, correct?
Yes, they'll have some seating here. There'll be some railing here in this proximate area that will divide their space. That way when they close at night and there happens to be an activity going on after hours, they'll be able to close it off from the public. But I'm sorry, what was your question?
Certainly. So a lot of times coffee shops will say, you can use the Wi-Fi for an hour or whatever, which I know is not going to be the case because, we're doing public Wi-Fi. So will they be able to sort of have their own rules for their own space in terms of, like, if, they don't want somebody basically running their business out of and taking a whole table and staying there for 8 hours a day? I mean, that doesn't make sense.
That's right. Yeah, they'll be able to make their own rules for their space.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'll bring this back for the consent agenda sometime in July. One more piece of this is, I believe on July 17th. So on July 17th, we are going to bring the other pieces of this puzzle to you. So the operating plan for the whole town square and hangar building, the marketing plan, the programming plan, and a brochure, a draft of a brochure that's going to be used to market the space. So consider this one piece of the puzzle. It's a big piece. That's why I wanted to bring it to you now and earlier on. But the other pieces of the puzzle will be brought to you on July 17th. So, and I want to thank my coworkers. We have a little team of several coworkers that have gone through these policies with a fine-tooth comb, and they're all working really hard to get this space up and running. And it's a ton of work. It's surprising how many details and things you got to think of, and everything you got to have in place in order to get a facility like that up and running. So my coworkers have been working really hard, and they have their regular day jobs they have to attend to in addition to getting this running. So I'm thankful for them and all their support.
All right. Next item on the agenda, staff report, regional economic development. Ms. Owsley.
Yes, if Nancy Owsley could come up and give you an update on regional economic development. And while she's coming up, something very important happened yesterday. Yesterday was June 25th, and that happened to be Nancy's 10-year anniversary with the city.
Oh, wow.
So thank you, Nancy, for all you've done over the last 10 years. Nancy can look back with great pride on the difference she's made in this town, and it's my honor and privilege to work with Nancy. So thank you for 10 years of great service.
Well, next time it's going to have to be a high 10 instead of a high 5.
Thank you, Rod. And good evening. And this is our new mic. I love it. And council members, I wanted to give you a brief report on the regional economic development strategy that the Puget Sound Regional Council has been working on. It has been a long process, and the Economic Development Board of PSRC is chaired by our neighbor, Catherine Stanford, Deputy Mayor or Mayor Pro Tem of Lake Forest Park. And they are at a pivotal point in this process. They came out with a draft, and there were a number of comments, particularly from officials in Pierce and Snohomish and Kitsap counties, that number one, the draft read more like a policy document rather than a strategy. It didn't have metrics or really clear direction on how to proceed to achieve the goals in the strategy. And then, and like I said, short on metrics. And in the process of developing this draft, I believe another conversation has been ensuing about, we have a lot of different organizations in the region that work on economic development, and does it make sense to have some sort of overarching organization that really, in particular, goes after international recruiting and marketing? So there is this came up at the May 8th meeting that the mayor was at around regional economic development. You and I didn't cross paths that day because when I arrived to do a presentation, you had already left for another engagement. So tomorrow morning I'm going to be at a meeting of county economic development directors, and we're going to offer some comments on where this discussion is going in terms of should a new entity be created. And there are a lot of people that are working on this. A lot of elected officials are engaged in the conversation. And so if there's anything that you would like me to take into that discussion tomorrow, I'm happy to carry your thoughts or comments. I do know that as far as the overall strategy goes, they're still working through comments and how to address the comments in the next draft of the document. They hope to be able to get to the resolution of those items at their next board meeting, which is in mid-July, and then they're hoping that they can adopt the overall strategy in September. I believe it's September 6th. But that schedule could be adjusted if need be. But if there's anything that you would like me to take into the discussion with the Sound Cities executive director, who is sitting on one of the subcommittees that is taking on, what if there was a new organization that was fulfilling some of the responsibilities for the entire region, what would that be?
So it's gone through a couple of changes. I mean, there was a name change, and then just recently, Suzanne Dale Estes, that was the head of the organization.
No, Mayor, that is Seattle King County economic development, and this is more regional.
More regional.
Yes.
Which is
counties.
What I think is more important is something that is regionally targeted, because the other one was really too Seattle-centric. They said King County, but it was a lot of Seattle stuff.
Well, and the EDC is in kind of an interim situation now. They have an interim executive director who is there on a half-time basis. He's the economic development director for City of Bellevue. So I think that Seattle King County Economic Development Council, it felt like the discussion was going a certain direction, and it was time to see what else was going on in the region and determine the best portfolio and role for the county organization. Now remember, Pierce County has an economic development organization, so does Snohomish County, so does Kitsap County. And then there's a Department of Commerce, there's a Trade Development Alliance, there's a lot of organizations all working on important things.
But there was a move, I know, by Sound Cities and by King County to work to increase the number of middle-income job opportunities in the county. And that's something I would hope that this group would continue to pursue, because I think there is potential for cities like Kenmore to have middle-income jobs created. So I don't really want to lose focus of that. Councilmember Curtis.
I think I'm confused. So the Puget Sound Regional Council, that will still play a leading role as far as multi-county?
Policy, yeah.
Okay. So we're talking about the county development?
No, we're talking about the possibility of a new regional economic development agency that would, from everything I've heard, and I'm kind of late to the conversation, but would really play a key role in marketing and business recruitment, particularly on an international level.
So I guess my thoughts at the high level, without knowing a lot about these, in general, I think we would have more clout, more influence if we worked as a multi-county regional area instead of each group having their own entity that in ways competes against the other groups. So I think there'd be power there. And then the other thing, I guess it seems like we have to balance the staff people who stay and the electeds who could be gone with the next election cycle. So if we fill it up too much with electeds and they turn over at unpredictable times, you don't have enough people to carry the torch in between times. Does that make sense? So I don't exactly, are we just talking a bunch of elected folks who tell what they want this cycle and then 2 years later they're gone, or are we talking
Oh, this
mostly?
would be more like an agency with staff.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm happy to have electeds sit on that and give advice and ideas, but I wouldn't want it to reside with them as the major people who are going to get anything done.
Is this going to replace EDC?
I'm not sure.
But there's the potential.
Maybe some of their portfolio.
Okay.
One possibility, and maybe in the next few weeks, just because of the council's meeting schedule and the schedule that the PSRC's Economic Development Board is on, we could see if Catherine Stanford would be available to brief the council as well. So that's just a possibility.
The thing that I would hate to see is that EDC stays and we pay them $5,000 or so a year, and then this other organization comes online and we pay them a bunch of money during the year. It just seems like too many people out there with their hands out. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Well, the EDC is not a public organization, I don't believe. It's an organization of businesses and cities and jurisdictions are members of, or investors in this. Is it a quasi-public organization? But it's not a governmental organization.
It's not a governmental organization. It's an economic development organization.
Right, a nonprofit of sorts, okay. But what we're considering here is something that would take the economic development for the four-county area, the Puget Sound Regional Council Economic Development Program, and separate it out from all the other planning things. And it would be that is a governmental organization. The members of all these committees with PSRC are all representatives of cities, aren't they?
Yes. Well, some of their boards have, labor and business and
Are they voting
other.
members?
I'm not sure how that works at the PSRC committee. But again, what I have heard is that if there was a new organization, it would really focus on the marketing and business recruitment, particularly at the international level. So this is a work in progress, and so I'm just here to let you know what I'm hearing. I'll know more after tomorrow. And if there's anything that, again, you think of, you want me to carry into the conversation or be on the lookout for, I've gotten some good ideas tonight. I'm all ears.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple more things, Your Honor, under staff report. Got a bunch of capital projects underway. 62nd Avenue, that's all torn up, and we're dealing with an issue of mailboxes and people not getting their mail because the mailboxes are right in the way of construction. But our project manager is on it, and right now people are having to go to Bothell to get their mail. So hopefully we'll be able to figure out that little dilemma here shortly. 202nd Avenue near Kenmore Junior High, that project is supposed to begin this week. And Morelands Park construction is supposed to start tomorrow. So that's exciting. And the state budget is still not adopted. It's June 26th. And still got just a few more days before government shutdown mode. So I've been in conversations with our government affairs firm, and they're keeping close tabs on all this. If worse comes to worse, there might be some sort of a backup plan B budget that gets adopted to get the government and going another 30 days or something, and I'm getting a head shake there from Councilmember Herbig. Feel free to interject.
The governor said he's absolutely not doing that, so. I mean, unless he turns around, but just last week he said very forcefully that he absolutely was not signing any continuing resolutions, so.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, they need to get the job done. But it's kind of an interesting game of chicken going on, I think, right now in Olympia. And I had one more item, but I've already forgotten it, so I'll turn it over to you, Mayor.
Okay. Comments, initiatives. We're just stuck in this rut, and I don't know how to get out of it. I know, but then
in the middle. Start with Nigel.
It doesn't necessarily work, but we can do that. Councilmember Danuski.
I don't have too much. I drove by the town square many times this weekend, and there were always kids and families playing with it, and it was so fun, and it made me smile every time. So that is just amazing and awesome.
Councilmember Herbig.
Nothing really to add. I'm really excited to go see the movie this Wednesday with my daughter, and seeing the water features turn on over there was pretty fun. So we didn't make it out there. She was in the pool at our place instead. But yeah, things are looking good over there.
Councilmember Curtis.
So I had a minor comment on the water feature. So I got a call from my son-in-law, and he said, "There's no water." And I said, "Be patient. I think it's on 15-minute cycles, and it's probably doing something." And he called me back 5 minutes later, and indeed it was squirting. So if too many people complain about that, we need to put out a sign, "Be patient if you don't see any water. It will come in 15 minutes.
Oh, I got a story about that one. Councilmember Sperry.
Nothing to add.
Councilmember Smith.
I have one thing. I think tonight is a good night to tell you why I'm so passionate about ball fields, and it's an emotional thing for me, and it's emotional because I've been around a lot of kids, and I've seen how it changes them. And when you have parents come up to you and don't even know how to thank you because they're so proud of what they've seen their kids do and the change in their kids, and you see kids relate to kids that maybe wouldn't have even paid any attention to them in other times. And every child has different ways. Sometimes it's band, sometimes it's church, sometimes it's scholastics. There's different ways that kids relate. But the thing about team sports is that you involve with the kids. And this isn't just about Little League. This is about soccer. It's about basketball. It's about lacrosse, whatever it is. you engage parents even. You engage the dad who is very quiet and introverted, and all of a sudden you realize the team needs an umpire. So the league sends him to umpire school, and all of a sudden he's part of a community that he wouldn't have been a part of before. And when you see that play over and over again, you really realize that this makes a difference to people. It is the essence of what, when we talk about community and what we want to create, this is exactly what it is. And you create lifelong friendships within your community. As parents, you get to know the kids that your kids hang with all growing up through school. You know their parents. You know what kind of kids they are and what kind of parents and families they come from. And so I realize it's not everybody's thing, but I'm passionate because I've seen how it influences lives. That's all I have to say.
Deputy Mayor.
The only thing I want to add is it was not mentioned last week, but it's summer, and we don't wear ties during the summer. At least they're not expected. If you guys want to continue wearing ties through the summer, you're welcome to do so. But it's been our policy for the summer months and the warm summer months to go without ties.
Yes.
No, I didn't remember Mike.
I forgot. You remembered, but you wore it anyway because you were working today. I've seen you on your days off. You'll be in jeans. So a lot of stuff has happened. I was in Cleveland National League of Cities, and being on the Information Technology and Communications Committee, there was a tour in the city of things that they have done to conceal small cell wireless stuff. And it's really neat. I've got some information that I'm going to give to the city manager. And they also are doing what we're doing, is wrapping some of these utility boxes that are on the corners and signal boxes. And they're wrapping in artwork. And it's an art project that they've got going on throughout the city. So it's really kind of nice to see that. I kind of think that we started it first, but I guess we didn't. But it's nice to see that we're up there with the bigger cities doing some of this stuff to beautify.
This was Cleveland.
It's Cleveland.
Yeah. I don't know if you said that.
Oh, yeah, Cleveland.
Mr. Mayor, on that line, how about the big giant poles?
Yeah, I know. And yes. They had those disguised. They did in different areas. And
we need pictures.
I would certainly like, I did not get a picture of those, but I certainly would like to see what they could do over there. Hear that? Maybe it's time. OFM came out with population figures, and I guess we are, for 17, projected at 22,580. And it's after the 23rd of the month, so I can announce it. Puget Sound Clean Air have raised our rates again. We're now paying them $18,341 a year. I'm not sure what they do for us, but we're paying. Also, tomorrow I am down at the Ballard Locks Economic Impact Study, a press conference. And it's got to do with the deterioration of the Ballard Locks. It's got some far-reaching economical impacts here if those locks fail. Certainly lake level, the bridges, I-90 and 520 are in serious jeopardy. Property owners on the lake are about to get a whole lot more property than what they had. And it's pretty serious, and it's about a $50 million fix from the figures that I'm hearing. And the thing of it is, it's not money from us, it's not money from the state, it's money from the feds, the Army Corps of Engineers, to fund the project and fix them. They're 100 years old this year. So there's going to be some celebrations down there, and if you get the opportunity to attend, that would be great. I think that's it.
Do you want to mention an op-ed piece that was in the paper today?
Oh, yeah, there was an op-ed piece in the paper today about the legislature, quit stealing money from us and just get the job done. Don't try to pass these left retirements down to the cities. We're hurt by about 60,000. I think I saw that number.
On the left to
transfer,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. But when you take the marijuana money away, you take, and that's now I think 250 million is what I saw it's up to in the state, and they're taking that away from us, and the liquor revenues they've taken away from us. Don't fix your issues on the city's backs. So, yes, it was an op-ed that me, John Marchione, the mayor of Redmond, and Nancy Backus, the mayor of Auburn, wrote and was in the paper, Seattle Times. So,
you were one of 3 mayors selected to represent 30 cities.
Yes.
Right? So, cool.
Yes.
Your Honor, I do have one thing I remember. So you had a May 1st special meeting to discuss Main Street's proposed improvements for the last phase of Spencer Square. You may recall that May 1st meeting. Well, I think Main Street's been doing a good job of incorporating your feedback and your comments. I think they're hearing you loud and clear. And on July 10th, that's your next City Council meeting, we expect to have the latest plan that they've come up with. And it's a plan that meets code, and it's actually not going to need your action at all. So because it meets code. So it'll be more of an update on July 10th than anything. But I think you'll be pleased because the code is your vision, and they are meeting the code, so therefore they're meeting your vision, in my opinion. And I think you'll be pleased with what's going to be presented on July 10th. Also on July 10th, we'll be bringing you updates to the 3 capital improvement plans: parks, streets, and stormwater. Thanks. That's all I have.
And that's all I have. And if there's no further business come before us, we are adjourned.